Most people still live lives unaware and unconsciously. Most people still don't know that they're the creators of their own reality. Most people don't know that they have planned to come here exactly into the situations that they are being born into. They have chosen their families. They have chosen their circumstances. They've chosen their gender, their challenges. Most people are unaware of that. And this is what still shows up in the planetary consciousness at the moment. Humanity as a collective is still very, very unaware. But more and more people each day become aware. More and more people realize exactly that they are the creator of their own experience, and that this journey is not random. It's very, very purposeful. And we can only do this by becoming aware that our identity is a false identity. What we have thought and believed about ourselves for so long, who we are, and being raised with to believe who we are, that this is all actually just a construct. It is just the way we choose to see ourselves. Accumulated perspectives by what others have told ourselves, by our own experience, by our own interpretation of experiences. And so we have formed a self-concept and a concept of the world. But it is just that, a concept, or they are just that, concepts, ideas, thoughts, interpretations. They're not real. And I'm saying this now because the question many people have is, what do I do when fears come up? When I'm being swallowed up by fear, maybe sometimes existential fears. What do I do then? Now, there is a wonderfully efficient way of dealing with fear, but it requires one thing. It requires for you to let go of your false perspective and perception of yourself. And many say they can't do that. I cannot let go of who I think I am. And if you cannot let go of who you think you are, you cannot find who you really are. Because then what is more important to you is what you think and not what really is. So let's imagine you were willing to give up your false perception of who you are, or constructed perception of who you are, and you were ready and willing to open yourself to who you really are. And most of you are already on that path, right? So then you know, okay, I am part of the eternal energy source creator, and also focused in this human life. And in a human life, something like fear can come up. Now, how can I be the eternal essence, energy, consciousness, and experience fear? You can only do that if you allow the human perspective to be present, because only the human perspective, meaning your ego identity, ego identification, can cause you to feel fear. We can only experience fear if we hold the perspective of the human, and then we feel we can be threatened, we can be killed, we can be destroyed, we can be harmed, and then fear arises. Once we're aware that we're eternal consciousness, nothing can harm us, we don't feel that fear. And now in the human life, oftentimes in the awakening journey, both can be present at the same time, simultaneously almost, right? So we know we're eternal and nothing can ever happen to us, and everything that happens is illusionary, is part of the story, part of the game, and yet we can still experience it as the character. So this can happen simultaneously. But that's not in contradiction to what A Course in Miracles says. You choose either the false world or the real world. You can only hold one perspective. Because the truth is, if you know you are the source energy, consciousness, and you experience yourself in the limited form and in, let's say, a fearful situation, then this limited experience is just part of you. So all is you. But what we need to do then, if we actually want to transcend the fear, is we need to transcend the ego perspective. We need to identify with the consciousness perspective, with the divine perspective, with the truer perspective. That's where the identification needs to be. So we're actually faced not with trying to come up with strategies of how to eliminate fear, but with choosing the identification with our true self, with consciousness, with the source being that we are. So we are faced with this choice then. And once we do that, the fear disappears, because the fear belongs to the human aspect, the ego aspect, the identified aspect. So if you ask them, but what do I do if it comes up? You become aware of who and what you truly are. And you say, but still the human me is still in that situation. Well, then you as consciousness guide your human self through that experience into, okay, so what do we need to do in order to eliminate the threat? Or how can you bring clarity to the human self to see that there is no threat at all? Let's say if there was a threat of you might lose your job, and this causes fear and anxiety, and it can be quite existential, right? So then, from a consciousness perspective, millions and millions of people lose their jobs every year, or have lost their jobs over generations and generations and generations, or have never had jobs, or whichever, right? So that's the consciousness perspective. So it's part of the human experience to have a job, to lose a job, to get a job, to not have a job, to having one necessary, to not having one necessary. It's all part of the experience. So there's actually no threat or nothing to fear if you may not have a job the next day or the next week. Okay? Now there will maybe be consequences for the human if an income stream is not there anymore. But you losing your job is only a problem if you, as the small self, if you try to control that, like your experience from the ego state. Meaning you think keeping that job might be the best path for you. And this should happen. And if this doesn't happen, I will be unhappy. I will be destroyed. I will be financially broke. I will be miserable. That means you try to control and create from an ego point of view. Now, the ego has no idea what is really good for us. The ego only works within the limited perspective that it has, right? Within the mind perspective that it has. But what if not being held down by that job anymore would free up maybe creative potential that you have for pursuing actually what you want to do, or what you're destined to do, what you're passionate about doing? What if the universe knew, or life knew, which means you, really, the bigger perspective, what if the bigger perspective knew that you not having this job anymore would actually bring you more happiness and more fulfillment and joy and alignment than you could have ever imagined? And you resist this by wanting to create and control from the ego mind. And that way we can look at any situation in the world or in your life from that point of view. That what causes fear, right? What I think I cannot lose, I cannot step into, I cannot face. What if that was actually a blessing? What if life was on your side all the time? What if life is always working for you, not against you? What if life is what wants to express itself through you because it is you? You are life energy being expressed in human form, and now you get to decide how much you want to stay in the way of this life force being expressed, as in the ego, the little self, or how much are you willing to actually shed that false and limited perspective of yourself, that construct, and express your true self through being here. And that way, fears will fall off, because you will straight away think, this could be for the greater good. I don't see it right now. I have no idea how this could work, but I don't need to know right now. And then you're not fighting against anything anymore. Then you're actually surrendering to the higher power, to your true self, to the universal orchestration, and you say, okay, I get to keep this job. I want to keep this job if it's for my highest good. If not, I am willing to let it go and something better to come up for me. I always want what's the highest good for me and the highest good for all. I want to be cooperating with the universe and not creating from my little human perspective. And once we enter that, fear will subside. Once we surrender to the universe, to the divine power, once we express and practice our trust and live our trust in life, in the universe, in source, we will let go of fear, because then nothing can ever happen to us. And yeah, we might still end up homeless under a bridge, let's say, kind of this extreme example, right? But if we do it trustfully, in cooperation with the universe, we also know this will only be a phase. It will bring us through the next thing. And in each situation, we surrender and we say, it is this or something better. I am here. I am worthy. I know I'm worthy of the best experiences. I am willing to learn my lessons. I'm willing to experience joy and bliss and abundance. I'm here. Whatever way this wants to unfold, I'm here to fulfill my purpose in being me on this planet. And that way fear will disappear. And we get to practice this though. And until we have mastered it, like becoming the master of life, of your experience, until we have mastered it, it will come up again and again and again. Now, when fear arises, in the future, it's not a sign that, oh, I haven't mastered it. It's now you get to practice being your divine self. Now you get to practice coming into cooperation, into brotherhood and sisterhood with the universe. That's all the invitation is. And I invite you to practice this.